Happy Saturday. So, I thought it would be interesting if we almost did a little bit of a role play, right? So, what if we talk about the process since we do, or at least I do a lot of rentals? I would say that being really comfortable with working with tenants is like something that's pretty ideal. So, what do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
I think this will be very beneficial, especially to new renters who don't necessarily understand the process and what is required to rent an apartment.
So first things first is, who are you? I'm usually in the car by myself, right? Doing these little sessions. Usually I'm at the car wash, and today has just been a very long day. I haven't gotten to the car wash yet, so maybe tomorrow will be that day. But why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Lee Henry. I am a new agent to Berkshire Hathaway, our Montclair office, and just excited to work with Tiffany and just basically get a lay of the land and understand how things play out. So I'm still learning as much as you are, right? So
it's all a learning process. Every transaction is different. But what's funny is that we both have someone in common. So we both joined under Michelle Charles Hickman. So Michelle is both of our mentors.
Right.
And
she's a goat.
She really is. I mean, she's been
is.
in the business 20 years. I believe Michelle does something like 80% referral-based business. So, she is definitely at the tippy top. So it's really exciting to work with her and learn from her. And, some of what we're gaining is direct knowledge, right? Like, Tiffany,
Right.
This is how you do A, B, and C. And then some of it is really just being around and asking questions,
right.
and, listening on phone calls and listening when Michelle is meeting someone in person and just hearing how the conversation flows. And, anytime you can be around Michelle, it's a learning experience for sure. You're sure to get something out of it. Oh, she's so cute. So today was such a busy day. I've been all over North Jersey. So I started my day in Bergen County, and then I ended up in Essex County, and went to Passaic County. So I was all over the place. But my day started with assisting someone who's looking for an apartment. So I thought, let's just have a conversation, because like you said, sometimes we're dealing with people who are renting an apartment for the very first time, so they don't exactly know what the process is. So let's just run through a little scenario. So let's say we're at the office, and this is actually something that applied to the person I was dealing with early this morning. So I was at the office, I was working the phones or answering the phones, and someone called in regarding a home that was for rent. And when they called, I go through the process of looking on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. So that's what us agents use, so that we know what's happening on the market. It's supposed to be where all, the most accurate, up-to-date information is. So I look on the MLS and I see, okay, this person's looking at, a small single-family home. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's being rented for $2,000 a month. So qualifying to rent, most landlords have kind of like a baseline, I would say. So ideally, a tenant is going to earn at least 3 times the rent gross monthly. So in this example, the apartments or the home is $2,000 a month. So the landlord is looking for someone who earns at least $6,000 a month, right?
Right.
So when I'm on the phone with them, that's one of the first questions I ask them. It's like, okay, well, based on the price of this rental, do you earn at least $6,000 a month for your household income? So that's everyone who's contributing to paying the bills. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we do something called an NTN background check, which does credit, criminal, and eviction history. So landlords are looking for people who pay their bills, and that makes sense, right? Because they need to pay their mortgage or taxes or whatever it is. So we ask, do you have any past evictions or even filings? So sometimes people don't realize that there are landlords who systematically file for eviction if your rent is not paid by the 5th or the 15th or 20th, whatever day your rent is due beyond a grace period. There are some landlords who systematically file for eviction. So even if you got them their money the day after, they've already submitted your name to the court. So that's going to appear on your record. So sometimes we ask people, like, do you have any prior evictions? They say no, but when they complete the NTN, which costs $37 per person, we'll see, well, you know what, there's something here. It says last January, last February, whatever date, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, there was a filing. And sometimes that's someone's first time of really knowing it, because maybe they didn't get any paperwork because nothing actually happened. They didn't actually go to court, but the landlord had already filed, and then maybe they got their rent the next day or the next week or whatever the circumstances were.
So Tiffany, is there a way to remove that eviction off of my record?
So unfortunately, if it was not an error, it's not likely to happen. It's going to be there for a while. But all is not lost just because someone did file for eviction on you, or even if you were evicted. There are some landlords who are more forgiving than others. So sometimes if we can demonstrate, maybe something happened 5 years ago when you were a lot younger, and maybe you didn't have steady employment, but you've been employed consistently throughout now. You pay your rent on time all the time now, and your landlord would give you a reference. There are some landlords who are willing to give you a second chance. So it doesn't mean that you're definitely not going to be able to rent. But let's just say it was competitive. There's not a lot of properties on the market. So let's say there's another applicant whose NTN score, so the NTN is 0 to 100. Ideally, landlords are looking for someone with an 80. So let's say someone else's score was a 96, but you having a prior eviction, maybe your score is a 65, or maybe it's an 80. The landlord has every right to say, well, I'm going to go with the person with, the favorable record.
That makes sense.
Sometimes what happens is, if there is a hiccup in someone's record, sometimes you have to come to the table with something that you can offer in addition. So I don't personally recommend it, but sometimes people have prepaid rent. I don't recommend that, but again, you have to do what you have to do, right? Now, what I will also say is, sometimes if you're a person who has savings and your actual credit score isn't that bad, maybe the person could actually buy. So there might be a condo that's within reach that might be the same or less money than that rental.
I didn't think about that.
I have seen people where, you could have an NTN score that's, maybe a 70, right? But your actual credit score could have been, maybe it was a 680, 690. So maybe you could have gotten a loan with a lender and not qualified to rent.
Okay.
So that's something else that you might actually consider.
So we have options.
You do have options. And, the best thing is to figure out where you are, and then we can work on, well, how do we get you to where you want to be, right? So you don't want to hide from it. You don't want to, bury yourself and, I'm going to act like this thing isn't real. No, it's real. And let's figure out how we can fix it.
What if I had a prior conviction?
So depending on what that conviction was, there are some landlords, and I have helped people who did have, those kind of hiccups on their record, and, people who have had some struggles in life. And I've found some landlords who are more forgiving than others. And I have had people rent in a apartment who had a conviction. Now, of course, it's going to depend. It varies. It depends on the landlord, but you have to kind of be upfront about things and explain the situation. I've had people say, 10 years ago when I was a young person, I did something foolish, and I paid my debt to society and whatever, and they've explained it, and it worked out for them. Can I promise you that? No, I can't promise you that. But that also might be another reason to consider, well, maybe you could actually purchase instead of renting, and then the only approval you really need is like credit approval with a lender, right? Because they're not really digging in your background that way. So that's something else you want to consider. But back to the process. So let's say you called in, you're interested in that house. It's $2,000 a month. You make over $6,000 a month. So, on paper, just hearing you out, you qualify, right? And then we take a look at the apartment, and you say, you know what, Tiffany, I love this place. I'm in. I then text you the link so that you can complete your NTN application. Like I said, it's $37, but your report is good for 60 days. So let's say later you decide that, you know what, I think I saw another apartment. Can I take a look at that one too? Well, you've already done the report with me. Usually amongst agents, we're able, if we're all using NTN, usually we're able to accept that NTN report up to 60 days. So I can show you something else for sure and use the results that you already have. And I believe since July, they no longer do a hard pull on your credit. So that's something else that I think is favorable for sure. So let's say you do the NTN, your score comes back, it's a 98, right? So it's great. Then that's when I say, okay, in order to present your packet to the landlord, I just need you to give me 1 month proof of income. So that would be, a PDF of pay stubs, or if you don't have it saved as a PDF, if you just snap some really clear pictures for me, then I can go ahead and submit a little packet to the listing agent if it's not my own listing. With a brief summary, this is the person who I'm presenting as a potential tenant. This is what their NTN score looks like. This is what their income looks like. This is when they're considering taking occupancy of the unit, and then it's forwarded over to the landlord. So usually we can get a response, hopefully in a day. I actually just helped someone today who we kind of put everything in motion yesterday, and today they were able to receive the keys. So, sometimes if you have a motivated landlord, a motivated tenant for sure, we're able to kind of propel things, move things along pretty quickly. But even securing the place, it's not just a matter of writing a check for your different fees to move in. And actually, that raises a good point. Let's talk about what it takes to actually get the keys, right? So the landlord says, you know what, yes, I'm going to rent to you beginning December 1st for $2,000 a month. So to secure the home, you would actually pay the first month rent up front. Often there's a month and a half security, so no more than a month and a half. Sometimes it's 1 month, sometimes it's a month and a half. And then also, there's usually a broker fee, depending on the landlord, depending on the area. Most often the fee is for the tenant to pay. The fee is equal to 1 month rent, and we accept guaranteed funds for those payments. So we would send you instructions on who to make the official bank check or money order out to in order to secure the apartment. But again, depending on the landlord and the tenant, this is something that could all happen in a day. But I would say 2 to 3 days, right, is pretty standard to get a rental done. So really, that's kind of it. Once the monies have exchanged, the lease, the paperwork, all of the disclosures have been signed, and the guaranteed funds have been handed over. Usually that's pretty much it until you actually get the keys.
Well, it's not that bad now that you explained each step.
Yeah, and I mean, it may sound like more than what it is, but honestly, to me, I really tried to get it down to like a science, right? So I know these are the different steps. I actually have the information on my website. So for anyone who's like, okay, you just said a whole lot, and I know I talk pretty fast, but I do have it written down so that people can kind of just see it and figure out like, okay, what do I got to do first? The first thing you have to do, and I stand by this, is call us.
Right.
Call us.
Right. We are here to assist you. We are your local experts.
Exactly. And I know how tempting it is. You're on Zillow and Trulia and Rent.com, Apartments.com, all these different websites, right? Because they have these, fantastic photos and videos and, everything just looks so appealing and you just want to click all over the place. But all you really need to do is find that one person who, okay, I can work with this person. Because on my end, I will take the time to figure out like, okay, this person wants to live in one of these 3 towns. They're looking for this many number of bedrooms. So let me do a search for them and present to them, here are all the options based on what you said you'd like. I use Real Scout. I know some agents just go strictly to the MLS, and that's fine. I like Real Scout because it's interactive. It uses AI, so if you tell the system certain things that you like or dislike, it will highlight those things for you. So if you say, you know what, I really want like stainless steel appliances. Well, if a listing comes on the market and it does have that thing, it'll just highlight it to you. It won't exclude a listing that doesn't have it, but it will highlight one that does. So you're never going to miss out on something that meets your general criteria and parameters. But really, that's about it.
So don't forget to visit Tiffany's website.
That's right, lifeandlegacyhomes.com. That takes you right into my page with my broker, right, Berkshire Hathaway. That's really like a really easy way to get in contact with me. You can always call or text me really anytime from like 8 to 8. Let's say 8 to 8, right? Not too early, not too late. 8 to 8.
Right.
And I'm happy to help. I do tons of rentals, but one of the lessons that I learned from Michelle early on is what's really important is building a balanced business, a balanced book of business, right? So I do a lot of rentals, but I also do list homes, and then I work with a lot of buyers also. So I'm here to help, and I'm happy that you're in the office now.
Super excited.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like really great, and this is, we're here to help. So by all means, reach out to myself, to Jamie Lee. We're here to help. We're going to get it done for you. We can list your place. We can help you buy a place. We can help you rent a place. We're just, like you said, the local experts, right? So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But